The Phoenix Suns are playing good basketball for the first time in what seems like forever. This is coming after everyone said, hey, you know what? Those Phoenix Suns, they couldn't win with Kevin Durant. They missed the playoffs with Kevin Durant. They're going to do even worse this season. They are going to do even worse. They're going to be terrible. They're going to be bottom of the league. I've seen some people say the Suns are going to be the worst team or the second worst team in the Western Conference. So far, however, the Phoenix Suns have played some pretty competent basketball. They've had a few bad losses. They are 5-5. Okay, it's nothing extraordinary that we're witnessing from the Phoenix Suns. Okay, but considering the expectations were so low for this team, I think it's worth talking about because we got to talk about how the Phoenix Suns last season played so horrible with a roster that seemed better compared to this year, where they're playing pretty good, pretty respectable with a roster with not as much star power or even name recognition. And you know what? We're just going to start this off with talking about Mr. Phoenix Sun, Devin Armani Booker, because Devin Booker right now is probably playing his most complete basketball ever. He is the most complete he's ever been as a player. You know, everyone's known Devin Booker can shoot the basketball. Okay, that's just a fact of life. Devin Booker can knock down threes, knock down mid-range jumpers. He can drive to the basket, right hand, left hand, it don't matter. He can get the ball in, and when he drives, fadeaways. I've seen Devin Booker make just ridiculous hook shots even. There's nothing he can't do when it comes to scoring, all right? And that's what he's really known for, but the fact is he's also a pretty good playmaker. And he's had to be the playmaker for the Suns ever since they traded Chris Paul for Bradley Beal. That was a terrible trade. That was really bad. I mean, come on, that was awful. Trading Chris Paul for Bradley Beal. I mean, come on. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the fact Chris Paul was traded from the Suns. Chris Paul, one of the greatest point guards of all time. And when he got traded, the point guard responsibilities fell onto Devin Booker. And Devin Booker, you know, there are games where, like, I'm about to speak glowingly about how good of a playmaker he is, but Devin Booker has games where he is very turnover prone, but then there's games where he's just, you know, Johnny on the spot with his passes. So, you know, he's sometimes he's not as good with the decision making, but generally Devin Booker is a pretty good decision maker. And, you know, over the last 3 seasons, he's averaged around 7 assists each season. Since Chris Paul left, he's averaging 7 assists currently. So, Devin Booker, you know, the scoring, the playmaking is there, and he's even stepped up on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, Devin Booker, I've never thought Devin Booker is a bad defender. I've always thought he's an average defender. And when he played in the Olympics in 2024, everyone kind of realized, oh, yeah, Devin Booker's pretty good at defense. He can really, he's really good when he commits himself. And I think he has committed himself to defense this year under Jordan Ott. I mean, the team as a whole is pretty, you know, they're pretty committed to defense. They're not a stellar defense, but, you know, they're about an average defense for the NBA. And that doesn't sound like much, but, you know, that kind of brings me to part of the reason why the Suns or a big reason actually, for why they're so much better this year as a team than last year is last year the Suns defense was abysmal. Under Mike Budenholzer, they were the 28th defense in the NBA. 28. That is horrible. Horrible. They fire Mike Budenholzer, one and done. Awful. And they bring in Jordan Ott, and he's a rookie head coach. You know, this is another reason people were like, oh, the Suns aren't going to be that good. Rookie head coach, Jordan Knott, you know, what does this guy know? But they're the 18th defense in the NBA, which is, you know, that's around average. It's 10 spots higher than they were last year, though. And in addition to everyone kind of committing to defense, players like Ryan Dunn, in my opinion, is an all-NBA caliber defensive player. He was drafted to the Suns in 2024, one of the best defensive players in college, and he's really developing this season. Under Jordan Knott, he seems to be thriving. Didn't really get as much of a chance as he should have under Mike Budenholzer. And when you combine that with the fact they finally have a competent starting center, Mark Williams is a good starting center, and he is so much better on defense than any center they've had in the last 4 years. All right, now I'm not saying Mark Williams is the greatest defensive center, but again, when you look at who the Suns have brought in at their 5 position, DeAndre Ayton at his least, DeAndre Ayton right now is so much better than he was his last year in Phoenix. DeAndre Ayton didn't want to be in Phoenix. He didn't care on the defensive side of the ball really at all, it seemed like. Then after they got rid of DeAndre Ayton, they bring in Yusuf Nurkic, who, when I watch Nurkic play, I would call him useless Nurkic. I'm not going to lie. He didn't do anything good. Drew Eubanks was backing him up. Then Mason Plumlee was backing him up. That was the Suns' rotation at the center position. At one point, it was Yusuf Nurkic and Drew Eubanks, and that was horrible. And somehow it got worse with Yusuf Nurkic and Mason Plumlee. But now it is Mark Williams, Nick Richards, who is okay as a backup center, certainly better than Drew Eubanks and Mason Plumlee were. Then you get to the Kevin Durant trade, and in that Kevin Durant trade, it was Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets. The Phoenix Suns get back Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks. And Dillon Brooks is low-key the most underappreciated player in basketball. I'm not going to lie. Dillon Brooks is kind of the guy who helps build a culture for teams. He helped do it in Memphis. He helped do it in Houston, and he's doing it in Phoenix. Dillon Brooks has come in, and he's a vet now. That might, I kind of, think about it. Dillon Brooks is a vet. I kind of like, wait a minute now. But Dillon Brooks is a vet now, and he's out there, an all-NBA caliber defender, all-NBA defensive team in 2023. And he's out there with the young guys, Ryan Dunn, Oso Ighodaro. He's kind of mentoring them. So I think Dillon Brooks getting traded to Phoenix is a bit of an underrated acquisition. But Dillon was only part of that acquisition. The other part of that acquisition was one Jalen Green, who last night against the Clippers, he got re-injured. He missed the first 8 games of the season. He had an injury, and it's just kind of like, wow, why does this only happen to the Suns? Green plays 82 games last season. He comes to Phoenix. He misses the first 8 games. Then he makes his debut against the Clippers, puts up 29 points. Great game from Jalen Green. It was fantastic. And then the next game, again against the Clippers, he gets hurt, and he leaves midway through the game. And you don't like to see it, but at least when you look at this, the Suns are 5-5. They've had Jalen Green for essentially one full game. They've had Jalen Green for. And they're an average offense right now, and you'd like to think that when Jalen Green is fully healthy for a long time, their rating will go up. Now, it may not, but just the Phoenix Suns this year, again, nothing stellar. They're a 500 team, but when the bar was set so low and they were so bad last year, missing the playoffs, and the year before they made the playoffs and were swept, it's just kind of nice to see the improvement, nice to see the young players developing. Colin Gillespie of the Phoenix Suns, low-key having an MIP-worthy mention. He's not going to win the award, but, if you want to talk about most improved player, Colin Gillespie has stepped up his game quite a bit. I mean, the numbers are nothing, fantastic. It's not like he's a 25 points per game scorer, but he's really made a mark on the team and helped them to win these games. And he kind of did the same thing at the end of the year last year. I mean, they weren't winning games, but Colin Gillespie was making some great plays. So, when you look at the Suns roster, there's a lot of potential in these players, like Ryan Dunn, like Colin Gillespie. Kaman Malawach, if he can tap into that potential, could be a pretty good center for the Phoenix Suns. But all in all, the Phoenix Suns this year, to me, are a more balanced team than they were last year. Last year they couldn't play any defense. They could make shots on offense, but their offense was a little one-dimensional, to be honest. So I think all in all, Jordan Knott, through the first 10 games of the season, has done a pretty solid job. He's done some questionable things here and there, but he's a rookie coach. He's allowed to do that. I got the Phoenix Suns making the play-in. I think they'll probably be 8th seed. I think that, that might be a little generous, but they've played better than I thought they were to start the season. Given the fact they've had no Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks has missed a few games, and that's 2 of their starters. They've only had their starting lineup healthy for 1 game, and then Jalen Green got injured in that game. So but hey, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, for me at least, I hope the Phoenix Suns continue to get better and make the play. Like that's really what I want from the Suns this season. I want to see the Phoenix Suns in the playoffs, even if it's them versus the Thunder, and the Thunder beat them by like 50 points every game for 4 straight games. I still just want to see the Phoenix Suns in the playoffs, and I want to see Devin Booker get an All-Star selection this year, because there's no reason he shouldn't. He's playing phenomenal basketball, no doubt about it.